Welcome to another process video for my crush book. This is page 5 and 6, and for this one I've done some die cutting for some titles, and I cut out this word discover twice, and I'm just offsetting it a little bit while I stick it together so that it will highlight it a little bit better on my layout. So I decided I wanted to add some patterned paper to this right side of the layout. So I have some retired close to my heart paper, and I've run it through my cinch machine to punch the holes, and I'm just snipping the edges of them so that I'll be able to put them into the album. The holes match up very nicely, and I'm wanting to add some pop of color, so I've chosen some yellow ribbon from my stash, and so I'm adding that on the top of that patterned paper. So now that I have the ribbon on my paper, I realize that I need to punch that hole through it so that I can add it properly back into the album. But it's not working very well because it's ribbon. You need something super sharp. So anyway, I have my little hole punch here, and it worked not too bad. But I still ended up having to trim it up with some scissors, and it's a bit of a rough edge. So didn't really work out great, but it's okay. Now that it's in my book, I don't think I'll really have an issue with it. Moving on to the left-hand side of the layout, I wanted to bring over the craft cardstock color there so that the pages would tie in together nicely. So I'm just matting this larger 4x6 photo with some craft cardstock, and then I'm just going to start playing around with all the different components and figuring out how they're going to fit onto my page. So I pretty much decided on how the components are going to fit onto my pages now. And so I went ahead and I cut out a stitched bracket thin cut. These are new dies that came out September 2020. And so they were just like the perfect shape to add here to highlight my title. And I'm taking the stamp set, the little M size stamp set with New Brunswick on it, and I'm adding that onto the bottom of the bracket so that I can lay my title over top of it. So I've added some teeny tiny foam squares onto the back of my Discover title there. And now I'm going to add it on top of that stitched bracket thin cut. I thought I might want to stamp the province shape there, but it just it didn't really look right. But that's okay because I'm going to use it a little bit later on. So I'm going to attach my other photo here, and then I'm going to move on and complete the right side. So I wasn't really liking the way that 3x4 photo was looking on top of the craft paper. So I did my little go-to trick and I just sanded the edge of the photo. And then of course, because I had sanded that one, I needed to take out the other 3x4 photos, and I sanded all of those as well. And it just adds such a little tiny thin border, and it really helps to make the photo stand out. So now I found a spot that I can actually use that province shaped stamp, and it actually works out perfectly. The other half of this thin cut, and it just fits on there just nice and just adds a little decorative touch there and ties in my two pages together nicely. So the words that I had die cut for this side of the layout just weren't working for me with them being the same color. So I decided to try and cut out the word family with the yellow cardstock, and I was much happier with it that way. So I found some gems in my stash and they match just perfectly with this layout, and they add just the last bit of finishing touch to it.